All right, you guys, thank you so much for sharing your time with me tonight and joining my challenge this week, right? I think this is one of the highlights of my year, being able to connect with women around the world, covering things that we all struggle with, or maybe I should say the majority of us. And so I thought long and hard tonight, like everyone's time is valuable. I respect the time you guys give me. I enjoy being part of your, journey, if we can use that word. And it's always the pressure of what's like the number one thing that I could share? What is the one thing I wish like the old me, 6, 7 years ago when I was first starting, could have heard that would have been the most pivotal thing to give me hope to keep going, knowledge to maybe know what to change, just to stick with it because it's so easy to get burnt out. And maybe that was just me. But when I was thinking about it for tonight, I want to talk about the resistance. And what do I mean by that? Because as I've spent some time working with, gratefully so many, at this point, probably thousands of women from everywhere. Half of my app is from outside the United States. More of my Instagram account is out of the side of the United States. So I've been able to talk to a lot of women, which I'm very, very grateful for. And I feel like the overwhelming thing is not even being able to see what the results we want, but being able to stay with it. So what do I mean by that? I feel like if this were easy, we would all have the dream bodies. And what by that I mean is how it feels, right? I don't have cracking knees. My body functions how I want. I have energy. I'm not stressed or inflamed or bloated, right? All of the things that can go with how we feel, right? Because that's most important. Because the better we feel, the more likely we are to move more, right? I want to move how I want to move without something creaking or cracking or making all kinds of weird sounds and limiting me from the range of motion I want, getting up and off a chair feeling confident, right? Just movement, let alone athletic movements. And then the more we move, right, the more likely our body is to change, right? So then we want to look a certain way. And that is completely individual to everyone. I want you to look in the mirror and be proud of the body that you see, right? You've worked really hard on that. And so if we all had those three, the three things of how we feel, move, and look our best, none of us would be here, right? And so then I ask, how many, dare I say, thousands and thousands and thousands of coaches are there from nutrition, dietitian, I mean, you name any topic, fitness trainer, personal trainer, strength coach, rehab coach, right? There are so many of us because this is hard. And I don't think we talk about this often enough. It's doable though, but it's just hard. And so I thought, well, why don't we talk about what's hard? And I think it comes down to the framework and understanding what our individual resistance is. So this will make sense as I have a couple points I'd love to share. And I'm hoping you can take this and apply it to yourself, right? Okay, when you look at where do I want to be in 6 months? If you're a client of mine, you know that I ask this question often, whether it's in the program or my one-on-one coaching, because it's so important that we have a destination that we're working towards, right? We're never actually going to arrive because things are constantly changing, right? We age, situations change, our goals change, but you have to have a direction that we're going towards. And I don't want it to be a number on the scale because a number on the scale is a byproduct. It's a result, right? And so as you think in 6 months from now, what would my goals be? So I always like everyone to take a second, right? So we're gonna pause for a second. And as I'm talking, I want you to really think and answer this to yourself. Take a second and write it down or when we're done here. But if we don't have a clear vision of where we want to be in 6 months, we don't know how to fight the resistance that's going to come along over those 6 months that's going to derail us. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. Because if you could be where you want to be in 6 months, what I mean by that is how you feel, how you move, and how you look, right? If that were easy to get there in 6 months and then stay there for years later, there would be none of those thousands and thousands and thousands of fitness nutrition coaches, myself included, because it would be that easy. But there are millions of us because it isn't. And we try to, we hop program to program or coach to coach. We take time off because we can't seem to find what works for us. We don't have this right framework or mindset to continue it on over, a 2 or 3 week challenge, something that's maybe smaller, or maybe you have been able to keep it for a little while, but then something happens. The resistance happens, right? And we're now not on it again. And maybe we've got the The stress is back, the bloating is back, the tiredness, crankiness is back, or maybe we don't move as well anymore. We've lost strength or muscle mass, or maybe our body's gained body fat. It doesn't look quite the same as it used to, right? So I want to prep you to where you have such a clear understanding of all the resistance so that in 6 months you know how to get there and can stay there. But then it's up to you with the chapter of life we're in, how intensely you want to move to be there, right? And so we have to have that clear visual. So as I'm describing this, I want you to take a second and really think in 6 months, describe your body, either in your mind or if you want to actually write it out. I would suggest writing it out, if not right now, because obviously I'm not giving you enough time to be very, very thorough. But make a note. Your homework assignment is in 6 months, a category, a column on each one. How do I want to feel? Start from literally the top of your head down. Maybe you have headaches, right? I've got literally people that come to me with ailments for everything. Hair loss. Hair loss is a byproduct of a lot of different things that we're working with also, right? Literally start from the top down. And in that include mental health, right? I feel depressed, or I have anxiety, or I struggle with this, or it's starting in the morning, right? Whatever it is that you're dealing with, and we're all individual, and then just continue to work down your body. Maybe you have joints that ache. Maybe your stomach is giving you issues. You've got leaky gut. You've got other issues, right? You're bloated. You're inflamed. We have knees that hurt. I want to know how you feel because all of those symptoms, right, can all be reversed. We just need to know how to do it. But then they also lead to the emotions, things that I struggled with so badly. You guys know my story of how I started. It was snapping at my kid because I was so mean and irritable because I didn't feel good, right? So we're irritable, we're stressed, we're tired, and then we never feel like we catch up. Now, some of you may have a few of those symptoms and relate to that. Some of you may have all of them, or some of you have none of them. But some of us deal with something. So how do you want to feel in 6 months? Write it down. If you don't have a goal and a reason powerful enough, and I usually come up with my goal based on my symptoms, how much pain do these symptoms cause, and how much am I willing to get out of it, right? I want to get out of that place. What am I willing to feel better? Then the next column will be how you move. And you may have, it may be something like strength goals. I want to be able to bench press a certain amount of weight. I want to be able to do a pull-up. I want to be able to get up and off the couch without pain. I want to be athletically more mobile, right? Stretching. It can be absolutely anything. A lot of us have daily movement within our jobs, maybe chasing kids. And if you don't feel good moving or stable or confident, that's an issue also, right? And so we need to address that because the whole point is not just 6 months, but where you want to be in 5 years, 15 years, 30 years, right? Think way down the line, which I know I already feel at 45, that's coming too quickly. But we're preparing now, like today in this very second, you're on here with me and listening to this for where you're going to be in 20 years, right? So we start with the framework, right? Planning for this resistance and really understanding what this process looks like. And then we can choose, do we want to really apply it? Are we interested or are we committed? Because there is a difference. And then how fast are we going to get there? Because what you do today matters for where you're going to be in 20 years. And I want us all to be getting up and off the toilets. More than that, I want us all to be like still working out together like a badass squatting, whether you're holding a 5-pound pink dumbbell or a barbell, whatever it may be. I want us to have an amazing life 10 years now, 20 years from now. So you got to plan now, right? That's where this is headed. So then the last one is, well, how do you want to look? Now, I don't want you to say a number on the scale because that's a result. And who knows how you're going to feel, move, or look at that weight. Because even if you said, well, a year ago, I used to weigh, let's say, I don't know, 140. So that's your goal, to be 140 again. You are not the person you were a year ago. Your life situation is not the same. You are not the same identity. And that's why you aren't the same at 130. You've become a different identity. You do different things, right? Different choices. You may overeat or undereat or stopped taking protein or stopped walking or stress has gotten you, right? These are identity markers or I am statements. I am someone that's more stressed. I am someone that maybe snacks too much or eats out too much, right? Those things have taken you from where you were here to where you are now. And so even yesterday, I'm not the same person. So the goal of 130, that's not you. We're so far past that amount. You're going to be different, even if you weighed that same amount. So in 6 months, your body composition might be different. Your energy levels might be different, right? And so a number on the scale can be a general target. But what I want you to tell me is describe the body. How are you going to look? Right? I want to know, do you want lines on your arms? Do you want a bigger butt? Some people want stronger legs, right? Describe what the look of the body is. Now, keep in mind, it can't be someone you follow online. It can't be your neighbor. It can't even be your sister because we all have different body types. I am literally 5'11". I'm very, very tall with way too long of legs. I'm an ectomorph body type, meaning it is hard for me to keep body fat on. I've put it on. You've seen some of my photos for myself. That was a little bit of weight. Just for me, I'm not saying that's a lot, but for me, it was 20 pounds overweight and it was all fat because I didn't exercise then. But it's hard. Like I have to really, my body burns it off faster. And so, yes, that is definitely an advantage. We have body types that it's harder to burn body fat. We have body types that barely put on any body fat. We have body types that put muscle on much easier. My body type, although it burns body fat pretty quickly, I have such a hard time adding muscle, such a hard time, especially lower body. So you have to recognize what body type am I, which we talk about if you're in my program or coaching. And so please reference that because I know a lot of you guys are on here. We have all those all this information you need on that to identify where are you? What do I need to do a little differently for me, right? So you can't, I think the number one of the things that is our resistance is I'll make note here is if you're I don't like that you'd like vision boards, not what I want because we always put up like pictures out of magazines when we were younger, and that's not obtainable, right? You need to find someone that is you, or maybe even a past version of you that you want to work towards, not a number on the scale, but what that individual did, what you did at that age, right? So have a vision of where you want to be in 6 months of how your body looks, but it must be something your body is capable of doing. So I'm not going to picture somebody with really strong quads and a strong butt and calves. My body's not even capable of producing that. I've tried for years and it's changed. So I had to come to the determination of like, I will find the strongest, biggest quad muscle version my body can do. And I know what I'm doing. I even have a strength coach I work with twice a week, and this is the most that I can get. And I had to come to terms with, and then it released the noise in my head of trying to be something I'm not, right? So this is very key is that you understand look wise what that body is. Because 9 out of 10 times, if not a little more, when I talk to people, they don't follow the right plan to reach that because we tend to think eat as little as possible, skip a few meals, right? Mostly cardio. We assume that our workouts are why we're not losing body fat when it's actually what we're eating or lack, of control of what we're eating. It doesn't have anything to do with our workouts. And so the plan to get to that 6 month body is always a little bit different when I do free phone consults for people that need help to see where they are. And every time I say, great, describe the body. Now tell me what you're doing to get it. It's not the right plan. And so it's important to understand if that's where we want to be, what am I even doing to get me to that body in 6 months, right? So there's a little bit to understand and to know, but the first thing you've got to do is the vision. This is where I'm going. So now that you've got a pretty good idea and you can take a little bit of time after this, because it really is important to like do a page on this. If I could describe the dream body in those three categories, where do I want to be? This is why I spent a little bit of time on this. And then once you have that, it's something you're moving towards, right? And it's about overall health because we've talked about how the body moves and what, yes, it feels most importantly, because we're not going to get much done if we don't feel great. But then the result is how it looks. It is not the goal. A goal is never a scale number because that only happens after we change a lot of things, right? So that's actually a result. So that would be a different category. So that's why we want to know how it looks. Those things will be your driver every day is what I'm doing today supporting the me in 6 months. Because in 6 months, when I'm here, right, 6 months from down the road, am I going to be proud of the me currently for doing something, right? Because every choice we make, whether it's inaction or something proactive, moves us towards or against where we want to be in 6 months. And then more and more years go on, and all of a sudden we're 15 years down the road. You're like, crap, like I should have done it. So then what is the point of all this, right? I'm wrapping this around with we would easily hit our 6 months, 12 months, year and a half, 2 years out if we didn't have any resistance. So if we ignore the resistance in our journey, right, we're never going to get there or stay there. And so by resistance, let's dive into this real quick. With resistance, there's a few things we need to recognize. One is a major component, which will be the framework for which you see everything. It's the noise in your head. I've talked about this just a little bit. I don't know. I try to share more and more of this because I feel like this is something we don't talk about often enough. It's so important that I developed a 26 module cognitive behavioral therapy coaching program for 12 weeks that I coach you every single week, one-on-one throughout the week, because this framework is everything for getting you to where you want to be. Because the noise in our head, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, is the noise in our head, I think, if I dare say, is the reason, one of the main reasons we are not where we want to be in 6 months a year. Because a lot of times, think of yourself, think of someone you know. If we don't stick to the plan, we're not seeing the results that we want, right? Whether how hard we're trying, because most of us really are trying. If you're here, you're trying, right? You want to be where you want to be in 6 months. That's why you're listening to this. So please give yourselves kudos. We always have to look at what we're doing positive. You shut up and you're listening to me, right? You're here. You're willing to make those changes. And so with that, we've got to look at the noise in our head, I think, is pretty much the number one reason we aren't where we are in 6 months. We tell ourselves, I'm quitting, I'm stopping, right? If your friend were to say, hey, why aren't you on the workout program anymore? Or why aren't you on the following the food, guidelines you gave yourself? Or why are you back to drinking alcohol or whatever it is? And we usually say, I lost motivation, right? There was too much going on. Motivation is usually the main word we use, or I'm not seeing results. Like it's so frustrating to do all the things and not see results, which it is. That is very frustrating. And so we say those are the reasons that we've stopped, right? But in all honesty, I think it's a noise in our head that gets us to stop. That's why it's so important that we look at the resistance. Now, resistance is anything keeping you from where you want to be. And so whether it be lack of motivation, desire, right? Whatever term we use, or we aren't seeing results, those are pretty big reasons that would make me want to stop because it's overwhelming and frustrating, right? I only have so much limited bandwidth, time, and money. And if we're not seeing results, that's really, really frustrating. I understand that. I've been there. And so I still think it's a noise in our head of why we quit. So I'd love you to think about this also. So I'm going to share a little bit about what I do with I call it my Stronger You program, where we talk about the noise in our head a lot. It's looking at the framework where I want you to think how many times a day do we knock on ourselves? Do we self-sabotage? Do we look in the mirror and pick ourselves apart, right? The first thing we do in the mirror, is it something positive like, yeah, I look pretty hot today, right? I would love to know how many women do that. That's not my first thought. I'm like, yep, right? It's something that immediately we pick ourselves apart, typically, and I make light of it. But it is a very heavy thing, right? That's what I tell people all the time. Like, what do you do? What kind of coach are you? And I said, honestly, I just want a woman to be able to look in the mirror and feel good, feel confident, and even if that means neutrality, you don't think anything. You're just like, oh, I'm here today, right? At least you're not picking yourself apart and only seeing the negative. I want to empower you with anything possible to get you to look in the mirror or down at your body or wear an outfit and feel good, right? That's what I didn't have. That's something I struggled with, and it wrecked everything. It bled into every aspect of my life because I didn't feel confident anywhere. I stopped wearing shorts and swimsuits and all the different things because I didn't like my body, and then I didn't feel good, right? And so that made it worse because I'd lay in bed at night and the mom guilt was terrible. And so that's noise. Those things I'm describing to you are the noise in our head. And so those noises, right? I'm not good enough. I never show up the same way. My neighbor, my sister seems to do these things. They're getting results. What's wrong with me? I'm a failure. I can't even work out 3 times a week. What am I doing, right? Why am I even trying this again? I am still eating sugar. I've got sugar obsessions or cravings or addiction, right? Why? And then we beat ourselves up. And then sometimes we even self-sabotage. I think that noise in our head can be so unbearable, speaking from experience, that I want that silenced. So the only way to silence that is to not stick to my plan at all, right? When I completely give up. Now, I understand there are times like injuries, right? I've had a billion surgeries, and I can't move the same way. I can't exercise. I can't get my steps in, right? And usually my nutrition kind of follows poorly because I'm sitting and I'm stuck. That's how it works. The last couple months have been a little bit overwhelming for me as I've spent a lot of weekends camping. So I'm nowhere near gyms. I'm literally camping or in a trailer or by the lake, living out of coolers, right? So nothing kind of stayed according to plan, which is why I did this challenge in the first place, because I needed help with the basic things that get me back on track. And doing those basic things build my confidence so that I lay in bed at night feeling good about what I did accomplish instead of what I didn't accomplish. And so then I'm silencing the noise in my head, right? And I'm building that confidence, and I'll stick more to my plan because I feel positive. So if that noise in our head is so overwhelming of, I didn't do this, right? All the examples that I gave you, I'm just going to fail again. I never stick with it. My body just doesn't respond. I hate my body. All the things that we say, right? I'm so tired of the lack of energy I have. And then we put it on everything. I don't want you to feel that way anymore, right? So we've got to look at how do we silence that? And that's the huge resistance. So we quit. Because I think the problem is we just don't know the alternative. What else do I do? Right? I hate the noise. I don't like feeling like this. Life is super busy right now. I'm stressed and I'm overwhelmed. And so we just pull back because the more stressed or overwhelmed we get, the noise gets a little bit louder, at least for the most of the people that I coach and talk to and what I've experienced myself. And so this could be minimal, it could be a lot, but a lot of times it's easier just to stop because then it relieves the pressure. So the goal then is, okay, so let's look at the resistance. And so if we have noise in our head, we've got to talk about how do we minimize that? And it comes down to a couple things. Honestly, two. So we've got two choices. I think it comes down to um, knowing what to do, right? Because if we're like, how do I silence this? It's usually understanding you. Why am I having this thought in the first place, right? Why am I so hard on myself? Why am I frustrated with that? And if we dig the onion layer back, it's fascinating to figure out why you do what you do. And I mean like dig back because so this is what I do, right? With my one-on-one clients and my 12-week program. I will peel the onion layer back with you so far that when we get to the root of every thought and feeling you have this negative. And I know this because I give you a homework assignment where you're to keep track every day for you determine a couple of days, which is a good homework assignment for you guys if you'd like, is every negative thought that you have. And I mean like, oh, that was dumb, right? How many times do we say that to ourselves? Or I suck, I didn't stick with that, right? Or why can't I do that? Those are all negative voices that reinforce in our head, I am dumb, I do suck, I'm never gonna get this, right? And then we don't because we're telling ourselves that. So your soul feels that, and so it's harder to show up because we don't really believe we're gonna stick with it. And that's terrible. Like, I want you to feel proud of yourself. Like, I mean, I've been there, I've done that, and it's awful. And so, any way I can help you rewrite that, right? And so, we do things like track it because people will say, I don't think I talked that bad about myself. And I'm like, that's awesome. Tell me how you got into that place. But first, let's track it. It's just like calories when people tell me I don't overeat and I haven't tracked and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm like 400 calories over a day, right? When we actually look at the thoughts we have or comparison, I wish I looked like that. That counts, right? That's something putting yourselves down and that's noise. And all those add up is the resistance and then we quit, right? So this hopefully is helping you understand, oh my gosh, like this framework is the basis of where I need to get, right? And how we view ourselves. How do I see myself? Do I love myself? Do I feel like I'm worthy and of worth no matter my size or effort level, right? And the noise that we tell ourselves kind of determines that. So then, there's a few other assignments I'll give them like looking and praising ourselves for everything that we do. And I mean like super simple, like I brushed my teeth today. Twice maybe. Or I flossed. I hate flossing. I know we need to do it, but I hate it. I actually showed up and cooked dinner tonight. I prepared, this ahead. I got my clothes out the night before. I got up and did my walk, even if it's 500 more steps. It could be anything. I got one more glass of water in, right? I didn't yell when I was supposed to yell. I controlled my patience. I got in bed 10 minutes earlier. I don't care what you do, but every little thing you need to count for positive. And then you'll be shocked how many times you praise yourself and how we think negatively. So this negative bank builds up so much faster, and that's why we fall off. We get frustrated. We don't believe we're going to be able to stick with it. And so that noise, which is why I have a whole program on it, is so strong and dictating where we end up. Right? Now, we may not all struggle with it as bad as others, and I am so grateful. Like, I'm very grateful. Can we overcome it? Absolutely. I went through the whole process myself. And I have such a great relationship now with food and taking 2 months off this last summer because I don't have my worth attached to it. I consider them data points. So that would be another tip that I would suggest is everything that we do is just a data point. It doesn't define your worth, right? And that's something that may sound dumb to say it out loud, like, okay. But if you're looking in the mirror and not feeling good enough or putting yourself down, whether that's even 3 or 4 times a day, that impacts how you see yourself, right? You compare someone else by putting yourself down. And I don't want you to feel that way anymore, right? And so when we have to look, actively for things to praise, then we're focusing on things that we are doing, hoping to get to a point to where I can, how many calories did I eat today? It's a data point. What do I weigh on the scale? It's a data point. How many steps I take? It's a data point. What are my body tape measurements? It's a data point. How many grams of fiber did I have? It's a data point. How many times did I yell today? It's a data point. What time did I wake up? It's a data point. It's not you, right? It's not you. How many reps can I move? How much weight did I move, right? In the gym. They're data points. That's it. It's just information. And so when we look at it, and when we can separate, which we have to work on, separate those as just data points. They don't define me. It just tells me what I'm doing every day. It's the same as if your car, you had some program that followed you driving around the city all day. Like I'm all over the place within a 40 minutes south or, north. And it's just data points that this is what you did. This is how long you stayed there. This is when you filled up for gas. And maybe it tracks how many times I'm on the phone or how many times I changed the songs, right? And so with those data points, It doesn't make me feel like I'm a bad driver, right? It's just data. And then I look at it and say, oh, I probably drove too many miles today. I was on the phone too often. Oh my gosh, I texted 82 times while I was driving, right? I don't feel like I'm a bad person. It's just that's a wake up call. How much money do you spend in a day, right? If you were to track your money every day, how much you're spending, where you are, what stores, wow, I spent way more at Costco than I would have versus Smith's versus anywhere else. They're just data points. Now, so much easier said than done. Don't get me wrong, because I've been there. Remember, a lot of us, we have the same stories. I've been there. But I realized that was crippling to me, which is why I'm like, okay, well, how did I get out of that? That's what I like to teach you guys. And so it's a different way of viewing it all. And so we can look at all that we do during the day with nutrition, movement, and then the results, right? The number on the scale, how much we can lift is just a result of the data points with our nutrition and our movement and our sleep and our stress, right? So just like driving around a car, looking at what I do and how much money I spend, we just need to take the data points and then assess how to do things a little bit differently. So there's just different ways that we can try to separate the emotion from the action, is what I say. And that's what I want to help you guys with, right? Because it can be a resistance point. And so if these are things that might keep you from getting where you are or sticking with the program or not feeling motivated, right? It's frustrating. You get and look in the mirror, try on a pair of pants or on the scale, and nothing has changed after weeks, right? So then the second point to that's a large point, is sometimes we just don't know what to do. You may not have the negative voices. You may be the most hyped up person on the planet, which is amazing. Please share how you got there, right? I love hearing these stories. Everybody would like to hear that because it helps motivate us and inspire us to be better. And so it's that second piece is, well, what the heck do I do, right? It's like entering a cooking class, or cooking maybe is a little easier. Baking is what I suck at because there's so many, the butter has to be like a right consistency. And I always melt, like it's too melty when I make cookies and then they're flat, or I don't whisk it the right way, or there's always something I seem to screw up. I love eating it, but I'm not very good at making it, right? My family jokes that I have like a few things I'm really, really good at. Or maybe it's cooking and it's certain sauces that you've got to simmer. I don't even know the terms are, right? Something like that, to where you don't just enter a class. Maybe make macaroons. I've heard those are super hard. You have to make a ton of batches to figure out how to make macaroons. So that'll be my example. You don't walk into that class knowing nothing and expect to walk out with a beautifully placed, delicious macaroon. And I know this because my girlfriend's doing this right now. Right? She's going to all these classes and going, and she just keeps complaining about how hard they are to make as well as she'd like to make them, right? We need to understand that it's the same with our fitness and health and nutrition. Unless you're a certified personal trainer or nutritionist or dietitian, strength coach, right? Mobility coach, you don't know how to do this. I didn't know how to do this. That's why I went through so much studying and got my own strength coach, because it was overwhelming. I didn't know what to do, especially for my personal body. So the reason I tell you this is you got to give yourself grace. Could you sit down and play Mozart if you don't play the piano right now? If you've never played the piano, or maybe you just can play chopsticks, could you play Mozart? I think a very high percentage could not. I could not, right? And so you think of that, like think of your kids playing piano. If you've had a kid or a grandchild play piano before, it's terrible because they sound so bad for so long. You start at chopsticks and they finally master chopsticks, and it's like they turn the page and it's just barely better than chopsticks. And then again, right? It takes years to really understand how to play the piano. And some of us are better at it and catch on faster, but some of us also practice more. The more you practice, you will see results faster. So these are just kind of some hard truths that I say with love, but I think are important to embrace, because I don't want you looking in the mirror feeling bad. Again, knowledge is power. You only know what you know, right? So this is what I'm trying to help with. When you're looking in the mirror, I want to silence the noise, because that's the big resistance piece. And the second resistance piece is just not knowing what to do. So think of it in piano terms now. And this is kind of a good, honest discussion to have with ourselves of, I'm learning to play the piano, right? And if you know how to play beautifully, that is amazing. Pick a different instrument, something that's new to you. And you get to decide, do I want to learn to play piano on my own or have someone teach me? And for some reason, health and fitness, losing body fat, gaining muscle, right? Changing our body composition, which is overall health. We are very resistant to paying for coaches. I was the same. I did it on my own with VHS tapes forever because it was too cheap to pay for a program. We had money. I mean, not a lot, but I had enough to pay for a $20 a month program. I spent way more of that at Subway every week. I have the money. It's not a money issue. I didn't have enough self-worth or belief that I could stick with the program and see the changes I wanted. I wanted them so freaking badly, but I didn't believe that I was good enough, that I'd stick with it. I failed so many times in the past. I didn't want the accountability, really, because if I wasn't going to do it, then I wouldn't feel bad, and I wouldn't feel bad wasting the money. So I didn't ever pay for anything. So I had a girlfriend that gave me VHS tapes of the firm. I've shared this story. I have videos all over online. I'm doing my little dumbbells that also someone else gave me, because I wanted to change, but I didn't know what to do and I didn't believe enough in myself, right? So I chose to play piano without a teacher. It did not last long because I realized I have no clue what I'm doing. I would hurt myself. I didn't know when to lift weights. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, right? And so then if you do decide, okay, great, I can't do this on my own, you have a coach. You follow something on Instagram or on YouTube, right? Whatever it is that works for you. It could be a $10 a month program. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's what works for you. How good or qualified of a piano coach do you want? How much help do you need, right? Some of us have a little more understanding than others. And that's what, and you can get help anywhere. It can be free content online. It can be anything. But you listening to this right now is saying, I want a piano teacher, right? It's free. I'm not even asking for anything. It's free, but that's you still saying, I want a piano teacher, whether the piano teacher is charging me or not. That is you already fighting the resistance of, I don't necessarily know where I want to be or how to get there, or I'm doing everything I can and still can't get there, or there's things I don't understand. I'm inflamed everywhere. I've been battling this for months due to stress. And I had all this testing done, and now I completely understand inflammation. I'm on an anti-inflammation diet. It's working great. I just needed to understand how that aspect works. I've had every gut health problem in the world last year because, again, of stress, going through divorce. I now am a master of understanding everything wrong in the gut because I was inflamed by 10 pounds. I would bloat after everything and I had everything wrong, right? But I had to then have somebody help me understand that because I just had the symptoms. So we have symptoms and then it's like, great, what do I do from here? I had to hire some sort of piano teacher, right? So you get to decide, am I doing this on my own? The reason I tell you this is none of us know what we're doing, just like playing the piano. It's up to you to decide, how badly do I want to change? And again, consume free content, pay for a program, listen to free Zoom calls like this, ask me for help, pay thousands of dollars a month because you want the accountability of someone that really can work with you every day, right? You got a million options online, but you just need to first, resistance one of recognizing, I don't necessarily know what to do for my body type and any of the health issues I have. So how are you going to fill that gap in? That's the conclusion, right? We're going to silence the noise we've talked about. We're going to work on that. But then we also got to figure out, what exactly am I doing? So I appreciate all of you guys that are on my monthly app. That's a very smaller cost a month. Not as much interaction with me, but teaches you enough that you can be accountable on your own, right? It's a great foot in the door. And then some of us might want more one-on-one and you actually hire a coach, join a program, right? To help you actually specifically for you. Depends on how much accountability you want. The question is, how fast do you want to get better at playing the piano? Right? This is all, it's you, but I do think it's very important because the reason I ask these questions isn't pushing you because you can get free content everywhere, right? It's the resistance of, why am I not seeing results? Why is the scale not going down? Why are my muscles not showing up yet, right? I don't want that noise in your head, which goes back to our first resistance point. I want you to look and feel good in the mirror. Well, to do that, you can't beat yourself up because you don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. Right? So that's why I mention this is, please, I don't want you to beat yourself up or quit merely because you're not a personal trainer, right? We don't have that knowledge because we only know what we know. So then the other component to look at that with is, how fast do you want to learn to play the piano? And I love it because this is just something that each of us individually get to choose. And there's not a right or wrong, right? Depending on the stage of life we're in. If you have lots of little kids and you're barely sleeping at night, I've done this. I've got 4 kids and I stayed home full time with them. It is so overwhelming. If I could shower for 10 minutes and actually shave my legs with no kids in the shower with me or around me, it was a bloody miracle, right? And I didn't have time to run to the gym for an hour. I didn't want to pay for a sitter. I didn't want to pay for the gym membership. I just wanted to do something at home. But then it was hard because then I've got kids all over and nap times and I got to run here and there. There's a lot of resistance. Each of those things I just mentioned are resistance. They're reasons we're not where we want to be, right? We get to decide, do we overcome that resistance or not? And it may be out of 6 different resistances for the day, you overcome 3, but you let 3 be. And maybe you work, now that I work full time, run my own business by myself, it's many more hours. I don't have a lot of time during the day to just do all these things I would love to do. That I probably realized I would have had more time. I had all the time in the world when I had little kids, but the kids, I needed my attention more, right? So it was just a different usage of time. And I know a lot of us have 2 jobs that are single moms and they come home afterwards. You're dead beat. You don't have the bandwidth, right? It's our level of effort. How much effort am I okay to give today? And that's something we have to look at and be very, very clear with. If you're home with lots of little kids, not getting a lot of sleep, maybe you don't have a supportive spouse or someone that is supportive but just not home to be able to help. Maybe you have no family around. Maybe mental health is kicking our butts and we can't do it. Working a whole bunch of jobs, injury, right? Stress, wherever we happen to be, we're all different and it changes maybe weekly to weekly, right? A month to month. And so when you can look at how much effort can I put in today? How many pieces of resistance am I willing to overcome, right? Which is the effort. And that determines how fast we learn to play the piano. Now, to correlate that with you guys, that is how fast am I going to see results? So when someone says, Jess, I've had this question often, I'll join your program or even pay you for a one-on-one coach if you can guarantee me when I'll lose 15 pounds of body fat. And I have to ask, well, what's your level of effort? They're like, well, what does that mean? I said, well, how fast do you want to learn to play the piano? Because a child or an adult learning to play the piano, if they practice every day for an hour, maybe twice a day for half an hour, one time, and maybe an hour the next time. So even just a little bit more twice a day, they will learn to play the piano so much faster, right? Do you go to see your piano teacher every other week or every week? Or twice a week, right? How much effort are you putting in, right? Because that's time and that's money. The more often you play the piano, the more often you play in front of people, so you comfortable playing in front of people, right? All of these things, you're going to be a better piano player way fast, right? Versus somebody faster than somebody that, like, my kids were terrible. They was like, I'd have to bribe them and yell at them to get them to go play. And it was maybe 3 times a week they'd practice, and it was so half a, right? It wasn't even a good, honest effort. And they go back to their piano teacher and she'd say, you didn't even do anything. So it took them forever to get better at it. And I finally said, do you want to do this? Because this is not fun. And they said, no. So we all quit, right? I learned that lesson. And so it's the amount of effort we put in. I didn't even like playing piano lessons, which I regret now. So you have to be honest with yourself, right? How much effort am I okay putting in? And give yourself grace, because the second we cross over to resistance number one, which is beating ourselves up, then we got to scale back. And that means if I could do it, I'd be doing it. So then we look at, let's say, the example of a stay-at-home mom, right, with younger kids, which is where I used to be. I let all the resistance win every single time. I did not want to go to a gym. I was very overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. I only thought athletes went there. So it didn't even enter my head. I didn't go to a gym. So I let that resistance of not figuring out, well, really, who goes to a gym? Could I get help? Could I find a trainer to help me? I just didn't go. The resistance won. And then it was like, okay, do I want to wake up earlier? No, because I got hardly any sleep from a newborn baby and my little girl that came in. I need the sleep, right? And so the resistance of getting up earlier, maybe the resistance of trying to find time at home because the kids need naps and they want to play and I've got to run them around and they got doctor's appointments, right? And these are not bad resistance. This is called life and being human. So this is why I say give yourself grace. Give yourself grace, because some women can do that. They want to put more effort in. They want to see more changes. And it may be only adjusting your plan of, instead of giving ourselves, I must do 60 minutes of the plan for my workout. With a stay-at-home, mom or someone that works 2 jobs, you don't have the bandwidth to do a 60-minute workout maybe, right? So if you get 10 or 15 minutes, that's fantastic. If maybe you just focus on walking that day, that's fantastic. You lay in bed at night and you feel like you accomplished something. You beat the resistance. It doesn't mean you have to do the exact thing you intended to do, a 90-minute workout. If we can just prioritize, overcome the resistance of saying, I'm doing something because I want to put a little more effort in because I want to see results a little faster, right? It's just the consistency concept, right? And so 10 minutes is wonderful. You lay in bed and said, my goal was just to do something, and I did it. My goal wasn't to do 90 minutes. My goal was just to do something. We build that confidence, right? We won over the resistance. So yes, if we have kids and we're tired and we don't want to wake up early, even if you wake up 10 minutes earlier to do a little bit of light stretching, that's winning, because when you're low on sleep, that's not fun. Maybe you do the VHS videos like I did because of my little kids, and you've seen the videos maybe online where they're holding little cans of corn, and then my youngest daughter's holding a little can of soda, and they're doing them with me because I was like, that's the best I can do. And could I have done more? Hired a sitter? Sure. I didn't want to then. And that's okay. The effort that I was able to put in was doing what I did, and I'm proud of myself for it. I don't care what you're doing. It's just doing more than you did the day before. It's just putting a little more effort. And then that silences the noise because you still showed up every day instead of I didn't do anything. Does not matter if you're just going 5 ounces more of water a day. If you're doing, I don't even know, 300 more steps a day. If you're 10 minutes of a workout, like I said earlier, instead of an hour. Because if we lower the expectations, which like the all or nothing or perfectionism is a resistance, right? That is something that we quit because it's too hard to obtain. So that's another thing, right? Like, am I giving myself too much unrealistic expectations with what I can do as a human in regular life right now? Now, I'm not saying that you get a pass for eating Cheetos and laying on the couch all day, right? That'd be great. I'd love a couple, maybe half an hour of that a day. But most of us, right? It's lack of understanding what to do. It isn't just I want to hang out on the couch and eat Cheetos all day. It's I really am doing the best that I can. The very, very best. And again, if that means 5 ounces more water, that's a win. Not the 120 goal, right? Just 5 more ounces than what you were doing. So please stop. We've got to focus on stop beating ourselves up. We've got to focus on looking at honestly, back to piano, Am I okay doing this on my own? If your body is where you feel, move, and look the way you want it to, and you're like, hey, Jess, in 6 months, I don't worry about it. I'm where I am. Like, I'm good. I just want to maintain where I am in 6 months. What you're doing is working. Don't change a thing. Whether it's however you're consuming your content, however you're learning, whatever you're doing, the amount of effort you're putting in is phenomenal. Stick with it. If you're like, I'm kind of close with how I want to feel, and I'm good with how I want to move, but my body's not necessarily where I want it to be and how it looks, right? Then we got to change some things up. And so then you get to decide, do I change piano teachers? And how often do I practice? And again, there's no right or wrong, just a little bit more than you did before. That's what's going to keep you, again, silencing the noise in our head, because the noise in our head is the biggest piece of resistance. We got to tame that. It's like a angry toddler at 2 years old that wants to take a nap, and we aren't quite home from running errands yet. You're just like, give her anything. I just need her to be quiet for just a second. We got a half an hour more to get home, and then she can take a wonderful nap, right? We've got to make sure that we are keeping that at bay by how we talk to ourselves and what we do. So I hope that this is helpful of just really taking a very honest step back and looking at why I do what I do and um, what could I do a little bit differently? How can I love myself a little bit more, right? And it isn't by doing all the things, it's by doing just little things, which is why we're talking this week about the basics, right? A lot of the basics that are easy to build our confidence that anybody can start with are the ones I chose this week for our challenge. They are protein. Protein is going to be huge in keeping us full, maintaining and building new muscle mass, which is really in 6 months, the majority of us want to be able to have a different body shape, and that's coming from eating protein. It repairs every cell in our body. If you get a burn or scratch on your arm, it's protein that's going to heal that, right? Many, many reasons that we need protein, not just for muscle mass. But again, the 20-year down the road version of me wants to be able to move really well. That's going to come down to protein from building muscle mass. We're going to talk about daily steps. Daily steps is beneficial in a million ways, helping to digest our food, helping with mental health, but it's also a massive way to burn body fat, to use calories, right? So if you have a fat loss goal, please, we got to focus on our daily steps. That's something that most of us can do. We're going to look at fiber intake and water intake. Both, we've got to be able to have fiber, right? So everything in our digestive tract works. We can actually break down the food. Millions of reasons. Fiber is good, and all with water, right? We need to stay hydrated. And so these are basic things that are a little bit easier to start, where we just add 5 or 10 more grams a day, right? And I've got literature that I've shared with you guys each day that will walk you through the important steps of all this. We don't use all of our time tonight going over those. Lastly is stress. Stress is one of the largest things keeping us from being where we want to be. And I'm a testament of that from having a year of gut health issues that literally bloated me like no heaven forever. Like my ankles have disappeared. It is insane what poor gut health can do, right? And a lot of that comes from stress. It impacted my kidneys and then my stomach acid level, and then I was malnourished. I wasn't absorbing anything, and that's a ripple effect of a million symptoms, right? So I had to focus on all that, and I understand that. And then hormones, that's come around me the second time after I've had another stressful event this year, and am 12 pounds at the very highest, inflamed from water weight, from stress, among a myriad of other symptoms, right? I now understand how to fix this and correct it, which is why we're going to be focusing on some breath work and meditation, a whole bunch of things on one of our days for our challenge, because that is so important to be able to calm the central nervous system down, right? It's like learning how to calm the 2-year-old toddler that really, really, really wants a nap. It wants, she wants to be asleep. She doesn't want to be angry. That's a lot of our central nervous system. And so being able to learn how to do that is like the master control for seeing all the results that we want. So those are basics, right? Now, is it important to understand how much we're eating and then maybe tracking that? Absolutely, for fat loss. I get that. But that's very overwhelming. There's a lot of things we need to know, apps we need to use. What do I do when I don't know how many calories are in a meal at a restaurant? I get that. That's a very important piece. But that's not a basic that's going to build your confidence and silence the noise. These are easy things that are very, very big building blocks that we can move on from there. Obviously, the sleep is also a huge one that we focus on. And then the workouts I provided for you guys, the strength training, right? Strength training is humongous. That's and important in so many, different instances. And you guys know I preach that all day long. So hopefully in focusing on some of these basics, you'll lay in bed at night, you'll feel confident about what you're doing. You'll be able to look at the resistance. So every day with these habits, protein, why am I not getting enough protein every day? What are the resistance points? I don't even know what protein is. I don't know how to find protein. I don't know how to read the label. I don't know which foods have higher protein. I don't know how to fix the things I want with higher protein, right? There's a lot of reasons we don't get enough protein. And so we have to look at why am I not getting enough, right? Homework assignment, point those things out, and then we look at just resolving one. My example that I share with you for today, which is day 1 of our challenge, was +1. If all those questions are overwhelming, right? Just instead of putting 2 slices of turkey on your sandwich, put 3. If you have 1 egg in the morning, have 2. 5 ounces of chicken, have 6 ounces, right? Plus 1 of things that you already know what you're cooking, you already know you like them, and it just adds a few more grams to get you to where you want to be. So that's kind of how I coach, is helping you understand that I want to build your confidence, right? Ultimately getting you to where the noise is silenced, you can look in front of the mirror and you can feel good. Because the better we feel, the better the noise in our head is, the longer we're going to stick with this. Because you can give yourself grace saying, hey, I didn't show up this week. I took 2 months off. I've taken a couple weeks off, right? My favorite clients are the ones that email me and say, hey, my workout, my week that I'm on, will you reset me back to the beginning, or 5 weeks ago, or to the beginning of the phase? And then I have one in particular that always is so embarrassed to ask me, because she's asked me probably 15 times. And every time, and this last one specifically, I went way out of my way to say, you have to know how proud of you I am. You haven't quit. I don't care if you ask me 150 times to reset your program. You haven't quit, right? You're still showing up every day to do what you can do. And that's what we've got to remember, is I'm doing what I can do. And that's awesome. And I want you to be proud of yourself. So I hope that some of these are helpful. It can be a little overwhelming, which is why I'm always here to answer questions, which is why I do these challenges, to help you just look at some of the basics first. If you feel like you need extra help with anything, please always let me know. That's what I'm here for. I've got lots of ways I can help you. We've got an amazing community. That's why I love Instagram. There's a lot of really valuable coaches that we can learn from that just want you guys to feel better also. I've been there. You guys know where I was. I am now where I am now. And that's why I started my entire company and started doing this, is I want you to feel better. And I always get emotional because I want you to be able to look in the mirror and see your worth and a body that you love and are proud of, because you know the effort that you put into it. So you were worth it, I promise. It's just the knowledge of knowing how to do it at a pace that works for you and your exact body type. So thank you so much for your time. I love being able to join with you guys, be able to talk about some of these things and really discuss ways to help you get to where you want to be in 6 months and how you want to feel, move, and look.